Hey guys, FilmCrazyAdam here. To those of you that have stumbled across this video and this review and this channel, hey, I appreciate you rolling the dice and I hope you enjoy what you see. To those of you that continue to roll the dice for some reason, I welcome you back and I appreciate you coming back and I hope you continue to enjoy what you see. Anyway, on to it. Let's talk about the 2022 movie Prey that just came out last week. Where do I begin with this? Well, honest to God, I'm having trouble figuring out where to start because I've spent literally the last 3 hours walking around trying to figure out where to begin from this because there's a lot going on with this movie. And a lot that I can touch on, a lot that I am going to touch on. So if you do not want to strap in for the long haul, that's fine. And you just want my opinion, well, this is my opinion. I thought this movie was bad. I thought it was pretty bad. And if I had to give it a star rating out of 5, I'd give it a 1. 1.5 if I was being charitable. But I thought that the story was crap. I thought the main character was crap. I even thought things that the Predator did was crap and out of the norm and what would be expected of a Predator. Now, that's my review. I thought what I thought. I said what I said. And so if that's all you want from me, I thought it sucked. Don't go watch this movie. Watch a better Predator movie like Predator or Predator 2 or even Predators. But don't watch this movie. Now, I'm going to move ahead now. So there's going to be a lot that I'm going to talk about in this review. I'm definitely going to talk about Prey, and I'm going to talk about I'm going to be like very broad in things that I didn't like, but I'm also going to be very focused and nitpick a bit the things I didn't like. Things that I know that most people would kind of just like hand wave away or that they wouldn't even notice. But for me, as somebody who, I've said this many times before, that for me, story means everything. That 2 + 2 has to equal 4. You can't be like 2 + 2 = 5 or 2 + 2 = stop sign. It does not work in my brain like that. I need things to make sense. If you have something that If you drop something in front of me and don't answer the question immediately, that's fine. I'm cool with that. As long as at some point in the movie before the end credits, you do answer that question. In fact, I love that in a movie where I'm like, who's that guy? Where's he going? What's the importance of that chess piece? These little things that I notice, and then later on it becomes important. And it's not just shoehorned in. Like, that's called foreshadowing, or that's called setting them up and knocking them down. When you do something ahead of time that doesn't seem important, and then you knock it down, and then like it becomes important later. To continue to go off topic, in the movie Back to the Future, they right off the bat in the first 10 minutes of the movie, first 5 minutes of the movie, they talk about the lightning bolt that hits the clock tower, which at the point it means nothing. But then later on in the movie, it becomes the thing it becomes super ultra mondo important. So it's stuff like that, where if you can drop something early and then it makes sense without me noticing it, and then it becomes big later, that you've done a great job. That is first rate, top of the line storytelling. So getting back on topic, and if you see a bunch of crossfades, it's because I really got off topic and really got out into the weeds, and I'm going to try and keep this as tight as possible. I don't know if I'm going to split this up into 2 reviews or if it's just going to be one big review. You can tell by looking at how long this video is yourself. I don't know yet because I'm still recording it. Anyway, like I said, I've given my opinion of it, and I think it's crap. So now I'm going to move ahead with the review. Now, before I actually talk about Prey, I think it's important to know where the reviewer's mind is going into a movie like this. What do I mean by that? Well, Predator is part of a series. It has 7 movies within the series. Yes, I'm counting the 2 Alien vs. Predator movies. Just as if this was an Aliens review, I would be including those in the lineup as well. So there are 7 Predator movies. Predator, Predator 2, Predators, The Predator, and then Prey, and then the 2 AVP movies. Now, if you were to go with what the internet is telling you, then they would have you believe that this movie is the greatest movie in the Predator series since the first Predator. No, better than the first Predator movie. Which, you are wrong. You are just wrong. Predator is the golden standard, which has never been beaten. They've come close. They did a lot of good stuff in Predator 2, and I'll even say Predators was good. There is nobody on God's green earth that thinks The Predator was anything more than a steaming pile of crap that should never have been made. I'm not going to get into the AVP movies, though I can argue that those were trash too. So, back on track, what do I mean like a mindset going in? Well, there are two ways to come at a movie like this that's part of a series, is that either look at it as a standalone movie and judge it based on its own merits, or do I compare it to everything else that has come before it? And honestly, I don't think you can do anything but the latter in this case. If it's a Predator movie, you have to compare it to the other Predator movies. Now, is there like a set in stone Bible that dictates everything that happens in the Predator movies? Like, what am I saying is there an overarching story that connects all of the Predator movies? Is there a producer that makes sure that each movie has continuity, like Kevin Feige with the Marvel movies? And if you don't know, a producer for movies it's the movie version of a showrunner. Which is why like in a show, if a showrunner is worth a damn, then in the season of that show, or even the entire show overall, there will be like a subplot through the entire season where things happen and it all culminates and adds up to the season finale. Typically doesn't happen with movies because, or at least not used to be, because used to be was that you'd have you drop a movie in theaters and then that'd be it. You'd walk away from it and hopefully it does well. If it does well and fans want more of it, then there would be a sequel. It wouldn't really be but it wouldn't be a planned sequel. It would be 3, 4, 5 years later. They'd be like, people have been really wanting this. Let's do another one. And so then they would hire a different writer, hire a different director, most often hire a different producer. And those people would then do their take on the movie. So there is no real overarching mythology that's considered 100% canon in the Predator movies. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of agreed upon, like a gentleman's agreement agreed upon, that all Predators have can only see in the infrared spectrum, stuff like that, and that they all have the fangs that. Not as good as Peter Cullen's version of that, but I thought that wasn't too bad. But anyway, so there's some things that are agreed upon overall, but not something that is set in stone. So each movie, there's variances, there's things that change throughout the movie. So basically, it's like, can you hold it up next to everything else if it's not all canon? Like, the canon that exists is fan canon. Again, there's no set in stone mythology that dictates what Predators and Aliens and those two do. There's just kind of fan fiction that people kind of stick to. So even that being said, it's like, would it be fair to judge it based on everything else? And I'm going to say yes, because this movie actually goes out of its way to tie itself to specifically Predator 2. And I'll touch on that when I get into it. So, yes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be judging it based on other Predator movies and how the Predator acted in those movies, how it was combative in those movies, and how it hunted in those movies. I'm going to judge everything based on what I've seen in previous movies. So, let's go ahead. Let's jump into this pile of shit and let's see where it takes us. Now, just so you know, I wrote 2+ pages of notes, not 3 whole pages. It was like 2 and an eighth, but like I have notes here. So I was watching the movie, I was pausing the movie. So here I am. I'm getting into it now. I've given you my review, and I told you where my headspace was going into this. Like I said, I'm judging it based on movies that I've seen in the Predator series. So I'm going to be. So I can't look at this. It might be interesting if somebody has never seen a Predator movie to actually like drop them into this, or like just drop this one in front of them and said, watch this movie, let me know what you think. But I can't do that because I've seen Predator movies. I don't have that ability to just shut all that off. And even if I did, I have a lot of problems with this movie. And those problems specifically are of the main character, Naru, some Native American chick who lives in the northwestern plains of North America in 1716, I believe this movie takes place. So just based on what little I know, which is nil to nothing, of Native American, and I believe they're Apache. I believe they're Apache in this movie. I might be wrong. But based on what little I know of Native American culture, her actions, her attitude, the whole thing where she just wants to be a hunter is just bullshit. Okay? Back from what I know, you had the men who hunted, you had the women that stayed in the village, and that was it. There was no question, there was no doubt, there was no arguing. It was men here, women here. Men hunt, women stay at home and watch the kids and, clean the hides and prepare the food. Everyone had a full-time job. Was it sexist? Sure, if you want to say that. It was just considered that this was your job, this was your job. Like, guys didn't stay in the village. They went out and hunted. That was it. So it wasn't just, women stay there. It was, men, you have to go out. I don't want to go out. Get your ass out there, and you ain't coming back until you have until you're carrying a deer on your shoulder. You got that? Get. So this whole thing where she goes out on hunts, where she's like this, she's got this chip on her shoulder the size of North Dakota, that she thinks she's better than everyone, that she ignores authority. She's an asshole to everybody. This is, without even seeing any other Predator movie, my biggest problem is that she is a bitch, is that she's obnoxious, that she is condescending, that she thinks she's better than everyone. She ignores whenever anyone other than her brother and her mother say anything to her, she just ignores them and rolls her eyes at them. At one point, she goes off on her own, and they send a rescue party after her because she's gone for over a day. And after almost getting killed multiple times, she and the rescue party finds her and we got to go back. And she's like, no, screw you. I'm going to go hunt this thing that she just ran away from. And they're like, no, we were sent to come get you. Come with us. And she literally starts an actual fist fight with them. So I hate her as a character. She's a bad character. She is not a great protagonist. She's unlikable. I hate her. Anyway, okay. Moving on. So the movie starts out that you watch, you see a predator get dropped off, like a kid being dropped off by a bus. And he starts walking around. Which, right off the bat, here's the nitpicking part. Right off the bat is I have issue with us following this guy around. Because the movie does. The movie follows the predator around. Not like previous movies where we might catch glimpses of him, and we might see him here or there, and we might, and the film will go with him. We'll stop for a moment with the predator, be like, oh, what's he doing? Oh, he's healing himself. Oh, he's cleaning off the skulls. Or in Predator, the first Predator movie, he's like, okay, he's oddly interested in this dead scorpion, but it actually made sense because he was watching the guys ahead of time, and so the scorpion, he actually saw the scorpion plays a part in the scene. And this movie, but that's it. We don't follow him around. We don't as he goes hunt. We don't follow him. He shows up now and then, and he's like a ghost. So, in this movie where we literally follow him, at one point, we see him get dropped off by the bus, and then at one point he's just walking through the forest, and he's standing there and he's watching a wolf hunt a rabbit, and then he kills the wolf for some reason. There's another point where he's standing in the forest, and there's a butterfly or something where a moth eats that. A rodent eats the bug. I think it's a bug. And then a snake eats the rodent. And then the snake senses a predator and tries to kill it, and predator kills it. So like there's all this stuff. There's another scene I'll get to later where he comes across this field of dead buffalo. But like I said, I'll come to that. I'm getting to that. So anyway, starting off the movie, we see the predator dropped off by the bus. Now this is the very first predator ever landing on Earth, ever. In 1716. Right off the bat, I ask why? Why the northwestern plains of America? Why there? Because predators hunt for sport. Like any proud hunter, you want to hunt the best and the biggest. And predators, their job is, like, their whole thing is that they hunt the strongest predators in that scenario. So why a small tribe of Native Americans in the Northern Plains? I mean, you have so many other options all over Earth at this point. You have the British Empire, the Russian Empire, the Qing Dynasty in China, the Ottoman Empire, the Spanish Empire. All these things are actual things in the 1700s. So you have all this other civilization, all this other rest of the planet to choose from. But for some reason, you chose this little tribe of like 30 people you decided to get dropped off in the middle of the freaking woods in the Northern Plains, where there's about 100 white guys and there's like 30 Native Americans in this small area. I mean, with all the tech a predator has, the cloaking, interstellar travel, starships, the targeting sensor, all his gadgets, all the stuff that Predator uses. You would think that with all this technology, they might have a few sensors on the ship that they could actually just scan the surface of the Earth and be like, we got some stuff, we got some shit going down over there. Those guys look kind of tough. Those guys are pretty bad. Those Ottomans, whoo, look at them Ottomans go. And the British, they're just screwing shit up everywhere. Oh, what do we got over here? Oh, we got a small group of guys. Let's see. They don't have any kind of technology. They don't have any kind of metallurgy. No, they don't even have houses. They don't even have 4 roofs and a ceiling. They don't even have 4 walls and a ceiling. They just got tents. The most advanced piece of technology they got is fire and maybe bows. Huh. Yeah, let's get them. Those guys seem super strong. So that's like right off the bat, I'm like, why here? Of all places on the planet Earth, why there? Now, you might be saying, but what about Predator 1, when the Predator was just dropped off in the jungles of South America? Well, the location doesn't matter. First of all, like I'm not asking why here in North America. I'm like, why is this here? Why is this your hunting ground? A good hunter knows when to, or like does research and knows when. You don't hunt in the off season. You don't hunt deer when there's no deer. You hunt during the hunting season. You go where the prey is. So like, why there when there's nothing there? Even like I said, preliminary research, some scanning of the planet, you can tell that like there's basically nothing there. So why there with that target? Because in Predator 1, all those people, like, you could be like, well, he was just in the middle of the jungle. Why jump in the middle of the jungle? Because all those people were armed to the teeth. The Marines that went in, the U.S. forces that went in, and the drug lords that were there, all of them were armed to the teeth. So those were all badass. Capital B, capital A, badass mother effers. That was going to be a challenge. This right here was going to be a fight. Predator knew that going in. Other than like 1 or 2 hostages, this was just a target-rich environment for the Predators. Same thing with Predator 2. There's guns all over LA. So like, it makes perfect sense. Those locations. In the movie, the Predators, they grabbed all the most badass people all over the planet. So you can't tell me that they can't figure out what people are badass and what aren't. that what people are a challenge and good hunters and what are not. Because the entire point of that movie was that they picked the best, the biggest, the baddest, and the best out of the entire planet. So you can't tell me that that's not a thing. And don't tell me that, well, this takes place in 1716 and that other movie takes place 300 years later. Again, if you've got interstellar travel and personal cloaking devices, you've got scanners, you've got sensors, you can figure this shit out. That is not an argument that will fly with me. When you are that advanced technologically and you have devices that can shoot missiles off your shoulder that are homing, that you have a self-destruct device, that you're as a species, you were screwed over with just like heat vision, but now you have a helmet and a visor and a HUD display, a heads-up display that allows you to see in different color spectrums. No. Your argument, no. It's not an argument because there is no argument. They saying they didn't know is bullshit. Moving on. So let's just go with it. Just go with it. He's in, I mean, because we have to. The movie takes place in the northern plains of North America. So then we're introduced to Naru, who for some reason is, well, it starts off she's doing her job as a woman. She's gathering. She's picking roots and this magical flower, this magic orange flower that's in the movie for some reason. And at one point she decides to go hunt a deer with her little tomahawk. And by the way, this tomahawk, she is better than Hawkeye with this tomahawk. She never once misses anything ever at all with this tomahawk. Ever. Especially if it's a non-moving target. But so she sees this deer. Something spooks it. Well, it's the predator showing up. Spooks this deer. And she runs after this. And she runs through this forest. And she starts keeping pace with this deer. Like I don't know how old she's supposed to be. I'm going to say she's supposed to be like 16. But she's this little girl, 90 pounds soaking wet at best. And the fastest human on earth, the Olympic sprinter, Usain Bolt, his top speed ever recorded, so the top speed of a human was 27.8 miles per hour, I think in the 2009 Olympics. So the fastest human, a person who is trained, who is physically perfect for running, has trained for years to do this, can top off at 27.8 miles an hour. A deer, just a regular white-tailed deer, tops off at about 30. Now, if it's a reindeer, I know that reindeer can get up to like 50. So the fact that she can just keep pace with this deer, she's running and keeping pace with this deer. Not just a sprint. No, she is chasing this sucker through the forest. And she is keeping pace with a 30-mile-an-hour running deer. A human teenage girl who has... See, that's one of those things that I'll tell you right now that most people probably didn't even think about it. Didn't even question it. But that's one of those things where I'm like, that's a freaking deer. Those things run fast. And she's just keeping pace with it. She's keeping up with the speed of a deer. Like, it's shit like that I can't get over. It's like, what the hell? That's bullshit. Let's see. Moving on. At one point, she crashes a hunting party, and she starts. They let her take point. The older brother's like, "No, let her take point. She's a better tracker than all of us." Okay, first and foremost, that doesn't make any sense. Number one, that if she was a girl in this tribe where from infancy she would have been indoctrinated, and people say that like it's a dirty word. It's not. But she would have been indoctrinated with the beliefs of the tribe. And if she had any doubts of those would very quickly be stomped out of her or beaten out of her. Let's be honest. So this desire to be a hunter, this desire to be a badass would not have, it would not have survived. Those feelings would not have survived to this age. or if they did, she would have kept them bottled up and not told anybody because she knew that would have made her a pariah, and that had she not, they would like that's the sort of thing that you would get exiled from a tribe for doing shit like that. You would get exiled for not falling in line and doing your job. So this whole thing where like she can track better than the guys? No one would have taught her those skills. But you know what? Let's say that everyone knows how to track, that it's just a thing. We're going to go with this. Everyone knows how to track. Why is she better at it than the guys? They should all be basically on the same level, especially if they're going out hunting all the time and she's back digging up roots and picking flowers. Then yeah, like if she has no practical experience hunting, she should not be a better tracker than the guys. And yet the brother's like, she's better than us. Let her take point. No. And like when she crashes the hunting party, or actually they find her, like she's out like hunting for this deer or this bear or whatever, and like they find her, and they would have sent her home. In fact, they do. They're like, you should go home. And the brother's like, nah, let her stay with us. No, she's a better tracking than. The brother is very likable, but he's also very what's the word? Enabling. Let's see. I already said that she's got a chip on her shoulder. She spits in the face of everyone she comes in contact with. She really does. Like, she even gives her brother shit. There's nobody that this stupid idiot doesn't give trouble to. She doesn't give people guff. Every single person that she gives shit to everybody. Everybody. Like I said, she respects her brother. She defies and fights both verbally and physically with every male character. Every male character. She ignores those in positions of authority. At one point, she actually fights a guy. This 90-pound girl soaking wet fights a warrior, one of the hunters of the tribe, and beats his ass. Just beats his ass. This little girl beats up this guy. Either he is the most pathetic warrior, which if he was, he would be one of the warriors that would be left back at the village or back of the tribe. It would be his job. Like, he'd be on guard duty. The guys who don't suck, they're going to go out and hunt and bring back the food and kill things. You're a guy, but you suck at it. So you just sit there on that rock and make sure no one, comes close to the village. That would be his job. So it makes no sense that he is out in the hunting party with the hunters if he can get his ass beaten by a little girl. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I talked about the buffalo scene. So, like I said, there is a scene where she comes across. Well, first the girl, Naru, comes across this field of buffalo that are all dead. They've all been skinned, and it's just all these carcasses. At one point, she bends down and she notices a cigar. Okay, whatever. Maybe she's never seen one. All this talking dries out my throat. And then she opens up her bag of holding, and she takes out a leaf and she places it on top of one of the buffalo and says a prayer for it. I'm cool with all of that. Everything there, I'm cool with. Now, sometime later, the predator shows up on the same scene. Now, it's been like an hour or so it's not like he was watching from the woods and like is coming to investigate like in Predator 1. No, this is sometime later. Didn't see anything, but he comes down, and this whole scene makes no sense to me because he's just been on this planet for a few hours at this point. He doesn't know anything about nothing about this planet that he is now on, unless they've done some scanning with the scanners, which, like I said, I don't think they did. But so he stops and looks at these buffalo, which he can only see in thermal, so unless he can smell them, everything here is the same temperature as everything else around it. So, like, why does he care? Why did he stop? Why did he care? Why did this draw his attention? But then he just like Naru, he notices the cigar, which, again, same temperature as everything around, so unless he's smelling it, and even if he smells it, how does he know that this smell is out of place, that this is not naturally occurring in this location? But whatever. He drops it. And then he picks up the leaf that she put on the dead buffalo. What? There is... What? This is the sound of my brain, of the gears slipping and grinding, because it doesn't make sense. This is 2 + 2 = stop sign. Because why? It's a freaking leaf. It's a local leaf. Why does he give a shit? Why does he care? Why is he oddly fascinated by this thing? He picks it up and he looks at it. Again, it's just a leaf. That it's natural occurring in the area. How does he know that it was put there by her? Why does he care? Why does it fascinate her? What is it like? Nothing about this scene makes sense. Nothing. Her scene, fine. His scene makes no sense. Nothing about him giving a shit about that field, the cigar, and especially the leaf makes no freaking sense. Moving on. Let's see. Okay, so there's a scene not about 40 minutes in the movie. There's a scene where she falls into this bog, and they really make a show out of her trying to get out of it. At this point, she has somehow decided to put a rope on the end of her tomahawk, which she is just as accurate, if not more so, with this tomahawk now that it's got this extra weight on it and it's now off balance. She's actually better and more accurate with it than she was prior. Not only that, but she has no learning curve. Now, I talked about Mary Sue's in the She-Hulk review. She is not a Mary Sue, because like I said, she is not a lovable character. She is not infallible. She fucks up, and she even knows it. Like, there's plenty of times where she fucks up. So she's not a Mary Sue, except in this regard where she is perfect at everything she does every time she attempts something new. She is perfect with that tomahawk. Like, that tomahawk and her are one in the same person. She can throw that tomahawk with better accuracy than a laser-guided missile, and once she puts the rope on it, again, now it's off balance, but hey, just as good, if not better with it now. And throwing it and retrieving it, never once think about it. Like, if you took something and put it on a rope and then threw it and then pulled it back, your first thing would be like, whoa, oh shit. You know, it would come flying at you, and you know, your first time, that never happens with her. First time she puts on a rope, throws it, pulls it back, like Thor's hammer flying back to his hand. She just... But anyway, she uses it as kind of like a grappling hook, basically. Like, she falls into this bog, there's this dead tree, so she's throwing this at this tree and trying to get it to catch. And they spend this scene goes on for quite a while. I think she does 5 or 6 attempts before it finally catches. And I think they're trying to build tension, but you're doing it wrong, because we're only 40 minutes into this movie and we've got a full hour to go. So you're trying to build tension and you're not, because you're not building any kind of tension, because we know she survives. And and if you've seen the movie, you might argue, well, the Predator falls in later, which, no, that doesn't matter. That has no bearing on this scene whatsoever. That the fact that the bog is there, it doesn't. You might say, well, you know, if he didn't get into the bog, he wouldn't have been in position for the final kill. No, that was, you know, the fact that she that she's on in this freaking bog for 3-4 minutes, and her trying, if you really wanted to set it up and be oh, there's a bog there, it'll be great for a trap later, you would have had her dog fall into it. Or, you know, she could have fallen into it and be oh, that's kind of bad, but then got out right away. Instead, they spend, like I said, 3-4 minutes, 5 attempts where she starts sinking down in it, and she keeps getting lower and lower with each attempt, until finally, right before her head goes beneath the surface, it catches and she pulls herself out. That whole scene is designed to build tension, which you're not doing it. You've still got more than half the movie to go. She ain't dying. We all know she ain't dying. So, no, it's a bad scene. Let's see. Oh, yeah, at one point she's running away from the French guys, and she steps her foot in a bear trap, which that thing... I don't know if you've ever seen a bear trap in action, but you could drop like a 2x4 in a bear trap and it will snap that thing in half. So I think it's safe to say that it would have like shattered her bone. Like if you did an X-ray of her leg, it would have looked like a sack of broken glass if that bear trap had really clamped on her foot. But no, she's just got a little bruise on it. She can walk on it fine. She's not limping. Nothing. That may or may not be one of those things that people, because most people haven't encountered bear traps. I haven't encountered a bear trap, but I'm not stupid either. Bear traps are designed to stop bears, and bears, there's not much that can stop bears. Plus, I go on YouTube and watch videos. You can see a bear trap, what a bear trap can do on YouTube. So that might be one of those things that people are like, you're nitpicking. It's like, no, if you're going to use something how it actually works. Moving on. Okay, yeah, so the Frenchmen, the white guys, of course, look like shit. None of them have shaved. All of them are fat. They all look like pirates. I mean, they look like the Native Americans who live out in the woods. Not saying that you should look like crap if you live out in the woods, though most people who do. But they're clean shaven. They're in shape. Everyone's teeth are straight. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's like, look at the guns. They're all in physical shape, which you can even argue like, oh, well, they're always running around and doing stuff. Like they're always physically active. So they have to be in physical shape. Fine. But because of the time that we live in, because of this particular time in history, like movie history, no. The white guys look like shit because they're supposed to look like shit. The Native Americans look badass because they're supposed to look badass. Like there isn't like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He's badass. He's a hunter. He takes pride in how he looks. There's not a single guy like that in the entire, like there's like 100 or so of these guys that all get slaughtered. And they all look like crap. They're like, there's not like one guy, like there's usually like one guy, like the captain or whoever's head of the expedition, that guy comes from money. So he would look good. He would look kept. So yeah, I'm sick and tired. And there's your political hit right there. Aside from intersexual balance or whatever. And also when we first encounter them, first they knock Naru's ass out, and then when she wakes up, they start talking about this guy, this hunter, this thing that's out there that they want to hunt. Now,
I think this creature is a hunter, looking for the strongest beast.
How do they know he exists? They can't. Because we've been with the Predator the entire movie. Like I said, it keeps cutting back to the Predator. So we know what the Predator's been doing, where he's been going. We know what he's been up to. It hasn't even been a full day. At most, it's been a day that Predator has been on the earth. And yet, these white guys, these French guys, know about him. Not just know about him, but they have figured it out. Like one of the guys, this guy who, because they speak French, there's one guy who can speak Apache, a translator. And this guy, he comes up to Naru, and he's like, yeah, so there's this hunter out there that's pretty badass, and like we think that it hunts based on the strongest being, the strongest predator in the environment that he's in. How? You've never met this thing. You haven't seen it, and yet you've drawn these outlandish conclusions, despite regardless if they're right or wrong. You've drawn these outlandish conclusions on how it hunts, why it hunts, what it's doing there, what it is, based on literally zero interaction with this thing. Because they just haven't. And even if they have, like Naru's has dealt with this thing more oftentimes than they have, and she hasn't figured out shit about this thing yet at this point. Though she has like epiphany moments where like suddenly stuff just comes to her and she just knows things for some reason. But yeah, so the French guys suddenly know all about the predator and that it hunts the strongest things, which then makes no sense when they set up Naru and her brother as bait. They tie them. They get tied to a tree, And so they're just bait. They're just, worms on a hook. Now, but again, the Frenchman already knows this. Already knows that he's an apex predator that hunts the biggest, baddest thing. So So you should know that the predator wouldn't want that. Like they're like, you guys are bait, and he's gonna come get you, and that's when we're gonna ambush him. If you know all this stuff about how it hunts, then you know that wouldn't work. Oh yeah, by the way, while they're tied to the tree, they stole a lot. Remember I said it in one of my other reviews. I said, when you shoehorn in a catchphrase from another movie, that's bad writing. That you suck. You have failed. Your movie's a piece of shit. The brother says, pulls the line from Predator 1, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Which, in Predator 1, it made sense. Because at that point, at one point in Predator, they didn't, in Predator, they didn't think that they didn't know if they could kill it. It was this weird invisible thing that they sprayed all these bullets out of it, and it just keeps walking at them. They don't know if they can kill it until finally, at one point, they find its blood.
When the big man was killed, you must have wanted it. Its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
And that's when Dutch, he's like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Because it made sense. Like, oh, it's not invulnerable. We can kill it. At this point, they don't know if it can bleed. They haven't injured it. At this point, by the way, Predator has wiped out all of the Native American warriors. Because, like I said, Naru at one point gets a bug up her ass about the track. She comes across the Predator's tracks, and she's like, it's bigger than a bear, and it stands on its hind legs, because bears never do that. And she gets really obsessed with it, and that's one of the times and then at one point she's like, I'm gonna go hunt this thing, and she just goes off by herself. And that's why there has to be, and that's why a rescue party has to go after her, because she just disappears. And then she has that fight, and she hands a guy his ass. She almost gets killed multiple times by the Predator, and she makes dumb mistakes, and the hunting party gets wiped out, just like that. Predator just wipes out like 5 or 6 guys. Anyway, remember that for later. That the Predator, in about a 20-second scene, makes very quick work of 5-6 trained Apache warriors. Warriors that gave him a run for his money. Some of them gave him a run for his money. Yeah, not really. But they were slightly more difficult than they were on hard mode, not easy mode. So anyway, like I said, they're tied to this tree. Her and her brother are tied to this tree, and they're left out there for bait. And for some reason that is never explained, this wind picks up and starts blowing dust, and it turns into kind of like this fog. It becomes like this post-apocalyptic landscape. What? It makes no sense. It's not like a storm rolls in. It's not like, this is one of those things where it's like, oh, storms. If somebody were to be like, oh shit, looks like a storm's rolling in, I would roll with it. But no one ever says that. It just happens. It's just suddenly this kind of like foggy, windy, dusty thing that happens, and it makes for an interesting fight. It makes somewhat for an interesting fight, because Predator just keeps disappearing into the smoke and the fog and everything, but it's never explained. And just as quickly as it shows up, it just disappears, and no one questions it. At one point, Naru gets away, and she's like, "I gotta go save my dog." Which, if something happened to my dog, I would probably do the same. So I'm not gonna fight you on that one. That being said, she goes into this encampment where there's at least 12 guys. Now, it's not post-apocalyptic anymore. For some reason, it only happens over here. But she goes into this camp, and 12 French guys, 12 hunters with knives, cannot best this little girl. 12 guys with knives and one guy with a gun cannot stop this little 12-year this little girl with her, and most of the time she doesn't even have a weapon. Like, she's taking weapons off of other people and stabbing. Like, she is just this whirlwind, like a Tasmanian devil, just of hands and everything. And not once, I don't think she kills each and every one of them. She kills 12 guys, a dozen guys. She kills 12 guys completely by herself. 12 grown men against a 16-year-old girl. Not a single one of them could best, out of 12, could land a single hit on her. Not a single injury, not a single drop of blood. Not one. But she mows them down like freaking grass in a lawnmower. And what's bullshit is the last 4 kills where she uses her tomahawk with the rope, because at one point she's not even catching the tomahawk and throwing it. She's just grabbing the rope and just yanking the rope back and forth, and the tomahawk just keeps doing kill shots. So, fuck you, movie. Moving on. I want to say just go with it for each of these. Just go with it, because if you just go with it, we'll get to the end of the movie. So I mentioned there was a magic flower that. There's a magic MacGuffin flower that it's a heal-all potion. There's this blue flower. This orange flower that looks like a zinnia, actually. And if you take the petals and then feed them to somebody, it's like some kind of cure-all. And it has a side effect that it drops your body temperature. And so they set that up early on in the movie. And that's one of the scenes where she's condescending as hell. But so it doesn't really describe what it does, but it's basically a cure-all. Like if you have this, it's an analgesic, plus it stops headaches, plus it's good against diarrhea, and it stops indigestion, and it cures cancer, and it kicks AIDS ass. It's just this magical cure-all that has a side effect of dropping your body temperature. And this is when she figures out that Predator can only see in the thermal spectrum, because at one point she comes across the translator who has been mortally injured, and she he trades her the gun from Predator 2. As payment to help him, and part of his treatment. We'll get to the gun later, by the way. Part of his treatment is that he eats these, that she shoves these flower petals in his mouth, and he's like, "Oh, I'm feeling cold." At which point, the Predator shows up, and I forget where she was hiding or something, or no, she was hiding, and the Predator shows up, and doesn't kill the guy immediately. Now, to be fair, the guy is lying on the ground. He has no weapons in his hands. Did he? No, I don't think he had his weapon. But he's lying there, not a target, and Predator just goes past him. And Naru, has this epiphany, this bolt of lightning from God, where she connects dots that don't even exist, where she's like, he didn't see, the Predator didn't see him because he had the flowers that dropped his body temperature, that made him cold, so the Predator couldn't see him. That's why he couldn't see him. No, it couldn't be just the fact that, despite the fact that you're right, it couldn't be the fact that the guy just played dead. It couldn't be the fact that the Predator shows up and there's bodies all around, and then he's just another body. It couldn't be the fact that he just played dead, that the Predator probably guess there's nothing here. No. Obviously, fans know that he sees in the thermal spectrum, so he can't see him because the guy's cold. But we know that. There's no way that Naru knows that. I don't even think that the concept of heat vision would even, as somebody who lives on the plains in 1716, how would that even enter your mind that it's got heat vision? Is that even a thing that you could conceive of back then? But we're going to roll with it, aren't we? Oh, by the way, the only reason why Predator kills this guy is because Predator steps on him like you would. Just like he's just some carcass. Just instead of stepping over him, he steps on him for some reason, and the guy reacts, and so Predator kills him. So she sets up the very last French guy. She sets him up with a gun that's not loaded as bait. Like somehow she's also figured out that if you've got a weapon, Predator sees you as a target. So there's this scene which is so crap, so bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit scenes I've said, but this one bigger than any of the other ones. So, oh god, how long have I been going on? Oh, that's a lot. So let me try and kick this up into gear a little bit. Okay, so she sets this guy up with a gun. She eats the flowers, and instantly it drops her body temperature to like below ambient because the Predator literally walks right up next to her. She actually has to step out of the way. Does not see her. And like she just ate these flower petals like not even a minute ago. But this entire time she is condescending down to this French guy about how much he sucks, that he killed her brother, that I'm better than you, that I'm more badass, and that you're dead, you don't even know it yet. Like it's just so obnoxiously condescending.
So now you bleed. You think that I'm not a hunter like you, and I'm not a threat. That is what makes me dangerous. You can't see that I'm killing you.
And I never understand why villains, and in this case she's a villain, why villains do that right before they kill somebody. Because, like, for me, the whole point of a dialogue is that, like, somebody's going to hear it. But if they're about to be, in 10 seconds, they're going to die. So, like, what's the point of me even telling them this? Because then there's nobody there to have heard me. Plus, he doesn't even speak her language. So he doesn't understand a damn thing. So this is just self-masturbation on her part. On her character's part. Let's see. Because here's the thing. It's one thing when another person is telling you that you're really awesome, you're really cool, you're really badass, and that you're stronger than you think. And usually it's because the main character doesn't realize it or is doubting their own abilities, and this little pep talk is what they need to power through their problem and, like, you know, reach that moment where they're like, I can do it, and like they attack their problem.
Any man who's got the guts to sell his soul for love, got the power to change the world. You didn't do it for greed. You did it for the right reason. Maybe that puts God on your side. To them, that makes you dangerous. Makes you unpredictable. That's the best thing you can be right now.
But when you talk about it to yourself in the way that she did, like I said, it makes you sound so full of yourself. Let's see. I'm also going to call bullshit on the fact that the Predator can just shrug off a point-blank shot to the back of the head. Yeah, she shoots him in the back of the head with the gun from Predator 2. So you can argue that it was just a flintlock and it was just a lead ball and it's by no means a Desert Eagle. Or that we don't know the physiology of a Predator and his skull might be 3 inches thick and made of unobtainium. But no, you're wrong! You are just wrong! That's why, you know, like flintlocks were pretty damn good back in the day. That's why we used them for 300 years. Because, you know, they worked. They were the weapon of choice in duels. Why? Because they worked. And if that weren't good enough, she blows the mask off the front of his face from the back of his face. That should have been like that should have been a cowardly bitch camping kill shot. Is what that. So like there's literally who the hell keeps messaging me? So yeah, she shoots his mask off the front of his head from the back of his head. So you can't tell me that's not a kill shot. It goes through his head, or at the very least into his brain. No, it's a kill shot. I didn't enjoy the fight at the end, by the way, which was super short and super bullshit. So it all comes down to this. So Dutch and Harrigan, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator 1 and Danny Glover in Predator 2, both of them big guys, strong guys, each weighing at least 2 bills, could not best a Predator in hand-to-hand combat. just punching each other, throwing each other, could not best each other. In the end, Arnold didn't best him. Dropped a tree on his ass and didn't even kill him. Injured him badly, but didn't kill him. In the end, Harrigan had to use the smart disc, the Destructo, Predator's Destructo disc against him. That was the only way for him to kill him. Because they were like, they're punching each other, they're hitting each other, and it ain't doing shit to the Predator. But this little 80-pound girl, soaking wet, just ended his ass. I mean, hits that would have dazed Schwarzenegger's character, she just shrugs off. And what is the Predator's excuse for not wiping her out in a heartbeat? In every other scene before this, Predator is pitted against at least 6 guys, usually more than that, in each fight scene. And he just wipes them out. Just wipes their asses out. Full-grown men with weapons, just wipes their asses out in seconds. What is his excuse? That he's tired from killing all those other guys? No, fuck you. And his kills and his death shot, him getting killed, was bullshit. Because it's this whole Rube Goldberg-esque contrived scene where she leads him into the bog. He rises up out of the bog, and like she had stolen. And by the way, remember I said she shot the mask off the front of his head. That was all part of her plan, by the way. She needed the mask to set it up because she learned that the Predator doesn't have a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher. He has like these 3 metal spears that rise up out of his arm and like shoot. And so like the 3 dots, he has three spears, and like the 3 dot so. Each dot is representative of each of these spears, so that each spear will bullseye on this dot. So she sets up the mask behind where the Predator is in the bog, like ahead of time. And she gets to the other side of the bog. And so the Predator, for this to work, the Predator then has to follow her, then has to fall into the bog, then has to stand up out of the bog at the exact right height where his mask is. He then has to decide at this point that I'm going to use my wrist-mounted arrow launcher. He will then power it up and then stay perfectly still right in the bullseye because, like, the thing's behind him. She doesn't know how, I don't know how she aimed this thing. Well, I don't, because she literally just places it on this pile of rocks. She doesn't okay, let's see. All right, it's about that way. Okay, so if I can get him there, it'll hit like that. Okay, good. No, she doesn't do any aiming whatsoever. She just places it on the off chance that all these things would happen in the right order and that he would, again, stand up at the exact right height in the exact bullseye and then decide at that moment, you know what? I don't have my targeting sensor, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. And the Predator knows that wherever his mask is, the sensor will, it'll power up and the arrows are going to go towards the bullseye. He knows this. And yet he does this anyway. And he realizes far too late that he gets shot, that the arrow's coming and it shoots him in the back of the head. And so that's why you always double tap. Fucking amazing, this movie. Piece of fucking shit, this movie. And then, of course, she decapitates him and brings the head back and throws it at the feet of everyone in the village, which no one freaks the hell out at seeing this head, by the way. This head with this glowing blood and these dreadlocks and these fangs. And no one freaks out about this. Everyone's just like, okay, cool. You did your hunt. You're now warrior chief. Yeah. No one questions it. No one, but there's this nod of respect by all the women. Women are better than men. All their men are dead, all except the one guy is dead. So bully for him because now he lives in a harem and life is gonna be awesome for him. But all right, so who's gonna do your hunting? And don't say Naru, even though that's what you're gonna say. Naru, no matter how badass she is, she's not going to be able to hunt for 30 people, or at this point, like 15 people. She's not going to be able to keep that up. They're going to get wiped out as a tribe. They're just gonna. When you don't have hunters to feed everybody and protect everybody and make more babies, like I said, you just got the one guy, you're all gonna kind of wipe out. But also, I believe they're gonna get wiped out anyway because, like I said, they establish the gun from Predator 2 in this movie, but that in lies more questions. Like, all right, so she's got this gun, but that gun's in the possession of the Predators in Predator 2. So at some point, they have to get this gun. So if she owns the gun, if it's in her possession now, and it's going to be in their possession later, I can only conclude that the Predators are going to show up and just wipe out this village and just take this gun. Which, again, this is something that has bothered me for years. That, like, why did the Predator have that gun? And my dad was always like, oh, it's a trophy. I'm like, yeah, but that's not what they keep for trophies. Predators take skulls. So it makes no sense. You didn't really question it in 1990 when that movie came out, or until AVP, so like growing up, I had 2 Predator movies to watch. I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the late 80s and the 90s. I had 2 Predator movies, 1 and 2. That's it. Until 2004 when AVP came out. That was the next Predator, or the next closest thing to a Predator movie was 2004. So I just had these 2 movies. So you didn't really question it back then, but now, like, moving forward, and like the mythology of the Predators has kind of been established. I now question, why did he have that gun? Because Predators don't take guns. Predators take skulls. But whatever. Moving on. No, wait, that's the end of the movie. So, yeah, I thought this movie was a piece of shit. I went on probably way too long about it, but I mean, that's how much I thought this movie was bad. So don't go see this movie. Don't listen to what you hear online, because it's a pretty big swath online. Like, you get people going on about how this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, to me, where I think this is just a piece of shit. Is it worse than The Predator? No, not by a long shot. Like, if I had to be fair, I would probably put this in that list of 7. I would probably have to put this at number 6. I would go Predator, Predator 2, Predators, AVP Requiem, Prey. Oh. Yeah, Prey, AVP, and then The Predator. So I guess at number 5. I would put it at number 5. In a list of 7, I'm putting you at number 5. But 4 through 7 are just all garbage. Like Predator 1, Predator 2, and Predators, those are all interesting. But if I can, so yeah, it's a trash movie. Don't go see this movie, or don't stream this movie. Which that tells me a lot that no studio wanted to carry this movie. It had to go to Hulu. Yeah, it has the 20th Century Fox logo on it, but like, it was streamed on Hulu. Only afterwards was it streamed on Disney Plus when they realized, oh, this is a girl power movie. So we got intersectional feminism there. It wasn't put out in theaters. It wasn't put on Disney Plus. It wasn't put on HBO Max. No, this was put on Hulu, of all things. So that should tell you something about this movie. Also, oh God, I was just thinking something. It just got away from me. The hell was it? Damn it. God, it was something good too. Anyway, I'm going to end it there because I've gone on way too long at this point. I'm going to try to put out another video this week before next weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do next weekend per se. But if you have any suggestions or any... I do know what I'm doing next weekend. So Hulk comes out, and I was asked to review that. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm also going to review a couple... I've had a couple of requests, so I'm going to start doing those. Anyway, I'll touch on those later this weekend. Like I said, I've talked way too long about all this. So I'm going to end it here. So if you've watched all the way to the end of this, damn, you guys are troopers. I appreciate it. I hope I hope me losing my mind was entertaining to you, and I hope you took something away from this. If you liked what you saw, please hit subscribe and I'd greatly appreciate it. If you didn't like with it, I don't know why you're still here at the end of the video, but I appreciate it nonetheless, and I hope we can still be friends. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Talk to you later.